and Greg's trackside filming, and then I've been sent trackside to film so we can compare the suspension and the grip and everything. And I'm in the shuttle with Danny, and he's like, I think I understand now why Greg's had such a good career.
That is so cool.
It was amazing. Like, I had Danny Hart, like multiple world champions, sat there going, Greg Minnaar's a savage. You know what I mean?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, today on the Rider Companion we have special guest Alan Milway. Hyped to have you on, dog.
Yeah, nice to be here again. Very
Mate,
nice
last time we've got a great contrast here, haven't we? Because last time it was new role,
yeah, that's
exciting.
True.
Now you're firmly settled in.
Yeah, I'm very much in it, you know. Yeah.
You're right
deep.
in it.
Yeah.
Deep
has
in it.
Has your job role changed?
Yeah, I think...
I was thinking about this on the way down. Like, what actually
it's funny, when we last met, we were chatting about the role, and it was kind of the performance side of it.
That's right. It had like a long...
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
It was like the performance manager.
Yeah.
And I think as I've got into it, that's the key focus. But you're the manager, you know, it's everything. And I guess a really easy way to explain that is over a race weekend, you get a load of like media requests and this, that and the other, and they'll all come through me, so I can decide, is that the right thing for the rider? What do we say yes to? What do we say no to? Wow. So those sorts of things, like you're trying to filter stuff, and also you've got the team's probably about 18 people on it, so there's a lot of people to kind of work with and try and get the best out of and understand and link together and all of that stuff. So
okay, so for listeners who don't know, give us the introduction, dude. Like maybe you can do like, hi, I'm Alan Milway and I'm
the manager of Norco Race Division.
That's what I wanted you to say. It's pretty cool, no?
Yeah, it's cool. It is cool. It's like, it's a big responsibility. I think it's the burden. I didn't really want to take on that burden to start with. It was a bit hefty.
They weaned you in with a few extra words. They stuck in there. Just sort of like
yeah, but I'm really lucky because I lean on like Kathy Sessler's experience for so much. She kind of does the job of about 4 people. So, and she's so good at the logistics and UCI stuff, and you know, she thinks way more steps ahead than I do.
I guess there's just so much to learn, isn't there?
There's so many different things, and I'm learning. Like I was saying to you earlier, there's some of the managers that I'll phone, like I'll speak to Lloydie if I'm not sure on something or some weird thing that I've not understood, and I'll just sort of, you know, say, what would you do with this, or what should we do with that, or what about this? And there's the managers all chat together really well. It's really good because we're all on the same page. We want the same thing. Ultimately, you just want a fair playing field. You want it to work for the riders. You want it to work for the teams. And sometimes there's a lot of frustration with that. Like we had to go, so flew into Toulouse, went to Ludenville, race in Ludenville. The race was on a Sunday, and then literally packed up, went back to Ludenville. The race trucks had to leave on the Sunday night to then, it was like a 16-hour drive or something to Leogang. And then we were being told you've got a specific like 1 hour window or something to get your slot. And I was like, well, this is impossible. And then the truckers were setting everything up. We fly in, and then it's track walk day. So there's just those sorts of things are really tough when you've got those tight back-to-back races, and the schedule could have been easier. We could have gone Ludenville to Andorra, for example, you know, that, and I know it's easier said than done, but Andorra is on the schedule. So there's some things that you can't quite figure out why they've been done the way they have. There'll be a reason for sure, but it doesn't make it easy for us.
I was going to ask you that exact thing actually about what is it, because a lot of people watching, listen to this might think, the team are just in Andorra or they're in Leogang. So what's one of those things that could come up that you as a team manager have to go, whoa, can we have it done this way, or can we get, like, I'm just trying to think of examples that someone might be able to understand.
Well, an easy thing to talk about is the truck. So we've got this massive race truck, and you're not allowed to drive in certain countries on a Sunday. So all of a sudden you're like, well, how do we get the race truck out of Ludenville? And how do we get it into Austria? And how do we do this? And then, so you have to then liaise with the organizer who will provide you with this. it's like, do you remember when we were traveling during COVID and you had to get a printout to say you were traveling for a sporting event or something? It's the same sort of thing. You have to get this kind of like a certificate waiver to say I'm allowed on the road because I'm attending a sporting event. Wow. And those are the sort of things that are so easy to forget about. And then the truck drivers, some of the teams employed 2 truck drivers to get from Ludenville to Leogang because they're on a taco. You're on a, you can't just drive. It's not like you or me in our vans just going, well, we'll drive until we're a bit tired. Those guys have to do a certain number of hours, then have to have a certain rest. Yeah. So
they'll just switch them out.
They'll just switch them out. But otherwise, the truck driver has to be quite clever on where he wants to stop to allow him, the right rest to then make the journey the next day. And those are things that just go completely above my head. And fortunately, I've got people to help with that.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's definitely one of the things that I'd overlook as a casual fan a lot of the time. Just start watching the broadcast. You don't really think of the BTS logistics of getting everyone there and everything. I think I had a conversation, obviously, with Joe, my friend, Joe Bowman. And he was talking just about even that 90-day window of people being in Europe is actually something that a lot of us are just...
blasé to.
Yeah. But it's really difficult to manage athletes coming into Europe, to not stay over the time, to then leave again. And
this is it.
Yeah, it's all that sort of stuff.
You're trying to plan where people go, how things link together, and things just get exponentially bigger, don't they? You've got a bigger team, you've got more riders, you've got more mechanics, you've got more support staff. The accommodation costs, you're trying to balance that. It's quite easy, again, with flying in. You've got to coordinate the flights. And Kathy does an amazing job of coordinating the flights so that you're not having like me in my own hire car and then 3 hours later someone else gets a hire car, and we've kind of got vans now that we hire for the season, and we try and coordinate everything so there's 9 people can go in one van and then we can go, and it just saves a lot of money but also a lot of time, if you can link those things together. So moving people around, that's a big job.
Yeah.
I guess it's the idea of a bigger team means it's easier for the rider. I guess that's always been the allure of like one of these factory teams, is that as a rider you have all the support. You only have to worry about going super fast down that track. But that kind of doesn't mean that there aren't way more worries and way more jobs to get on with, I guess.
That's the thing. We try and take away the stress. I think our job is try and take away as much stress from the rider as possible. But when you've got a bigger team, again, going back to logistics, you can't fit everyone in one house. So you're like, well, we need to get the houses close together, and we need the riders where the food is, and then everyone else will, gravitate there. But when we're trackside and when we're on the hill, that's where my main focus is, and that's where I'm excited. I'm finally like, right, we can get on with it. I really look forward to the track walk day, because then all the media stuff, I can just say, no, we've had that. You've had your opportunity. We can now get on with doing the bike racing, because ultimately if we do a good job on the race weekend, people will want to talk to the riders. People will cover the riders. But if I compromise that preparation, if I, drag Gracie away from her lunch or something to go and do an interview, or I cram something in late so she can't do a track walk or something like that would be easy to do for the short-term gain. In the long term, it could actually compromise the race result. And I think that's what my experience probably brings to this job, is to go, look, let's just worry about supporting them as best we can, giving them all the right information, saving them from the wrong information, filling their brains with that stuff. And hopefully get the results. And
it's really true. Like performance, it isn't just go inside here, go outside there, triple this. It actually really starts at almost the
stress and sleep.
Yeah, and like the vibe of the team. Do you have like a bit of a plan on? Do you have a picture of what you think is the optimal?
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because that's like, I think managing staff kind of comes into that, so that everyone's on the same page of what we're trying to get out of it. Everyone's pretty mellow, and then we try and let the riders choose the tunes when they're getting ready, and then you kind of get an idea on who likes what, and then you sort of can set the scene a little bit, and you can see some people. Obviously, if you're an extrovert, you recover in the company of others. And Greg's a classic extrovert. He's quite happy to be around people all the time. But then you've got introverts, and Gracie's more introverted. She's going to need space. So if she's off eating on her own, we don't need 4 people going to sit next to her necessarily, because she's probably actually just processing what's going on. So you try and keep an eye on that stuff.
Yeah, so it has to tailor to the riders, really.
Yeah, it has to. Yeah, it has to. And again, you've got Danny, who's a family man. You know, you want him to see his family and, you know, be dad. But then you also want him to be the racer. And trying to get that balance is also really tricky. So all of this stuff is on your mind. And it kind of, even we're looking at doing things slightly differently for the riders when it comes to their warm-ups and setting them up at the top of the hill and trying to have a super consistent approach. So they kind of come up and it's all normal. I've tried to make everything as normal as possible. So they're not doing anything that they wouldn't otherwise normally do. And
what's an example of that?
So an example is, one of the kind of bugbears that I have is when you see people maybe trying to juggle stones that they've picked up off the floor or play catch with something with their mechanic, and you actually start asking them questions and they don't do it at any other time apart from before a race run, and you're like, well, is this really, you know, it's this skill isn't necessarily helping you on the bike. It might be making you feel as though you're a bit sharper or a bit more awake, but really it's probably taking your stress away from the waiting. But if you don't complete that task really well, you know, you're about to race a World Cup and you can't juggle properly and you keep dropping stones. That's not going to help anyone, is it? Or you've got a mechanic and you're asking them to do something that they're not really, you chuck the ball this way, or I'm going to spin round, you throw it to me that way. And you can just sort of see this happening and thinking, this isn't working. And I've never kind of gone down that road. But for us, I've tried to make it so that the riders' warm-ups we've been practicing for 3 months, it's sort of a part of their session. So they understand it's quite normal, and that's what it should be. You don't want anything.
If you look at any
different.
other big team sport as well, it's a specific warm-up routine. You go watch a soccer game, football,
true, yeah.
NFL, basketball, ice hockey. It's the drill, go in, get changed, whatever you're doing, go for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this sort of stuff starts pre-season.
Yeah, massively. Yeah, so we've had a much busier off-season, pre-season than I probably had in a while. We had everyone come over to Birmingham, which was really cool. So everyone flew over, the athletes, and I've got a really good relationship with the university there. So we had them in the lab, we had a gym for the week, we had our sort of own space, and I could really get to know them, because obviously I had new people come in, and it was nice to sort of get to know them and understand them and have them assessed. There's physios I work with closely and physiologists and all of that. And that builds your picture, doesn't it? You sort of get an understanding of them, and then you can tailor things for them. And then it was off to New Zealand to be on the bikes, which was amazing. And Eris and Gracie were getting ready for Hardline. And just to watch those girls at Dream Track, I don't know if you've ever been to Dream Track, but that was big jumps. Yeah. And they were just like straight in, you know, just non-stop. It's fascinating. And you're just like blown away by the skill level. You're like, right, they're not messing about here.
Yeah.
And that was really, really cool.
Okay.
So in that stage, you're all in that house together, are you? And you're all like, I guess, kind of getting to know.
Well, this is it.
Not, you know, obviously you know each other, but
yeah, but this is exactly it. So we didn't take a full squad of people down there. We had a couple of mechanics, riders, and me. So I was kind of cooking, should we say? I was cooking and getting food ready and prep and trying to do the logistics of shuttling people to where they needed to go and then going off. But then you understand the people that enjoy the cooking. Hey, I'll help you with that. Hey, and then you get the people that probably don't want to. And that's all learning, isn't it? You're not trying to criticize anyone, but you understand, he's going to enjoy that, or she's going to actually enjoy this. So you're trying to get to know them better. Because I think that in this sport, in any sport, if you know the person you're working with, you know what makes them tick, you know what's going to kind of drive them forward, you know what's going to piss them off, and you sort of try and work within that. And everyone's different. Like Danny needs to sort of get pumped up before a race run, you know, and he's like, he needs to feel like he's really got to risk it, you know. He's like, right, I've got to push this. And not everyone's like that. Gracie's really chilled, and in a way you want to just kind of say, right, you've got to go, you know, when you hear those beeps, full gas straight away, you know, not wind up into it. Because I think Gracie kind of works her way into a race run. But Danny knows that he's got to go really hard. So you're trying to pick up on all these things.
Yeah. Why is that, do you think? Is Danny pushing harder because the elite, where he is in the elite field? I'm trying to word it right.
I think it's...
Whereas obviously what Gracie's doing seems to be...
Yeah, but I think it's personality trait, really. Okay. And I think that, you know, Danny's always done that. I remember years ago when I was working with him on Giant and we were in Wyndham, I remember he was getting pumped up for a race run, and I'd walk down sort of the first 50 meters, and I was like trying to pump him up, and I was really getting into it. And I remember he flies past me, and I was like, "You've got to calm down, Alan," because I was like, it wasn't really me, and I was just, "Come on," like this, and I was like, bloody hell. I could just see my emotions like this, and like my emotion can't be linked to his success or failure, can it? Because it would just be a calamity for everyone. I try and be super level, so I just try and be an eye shot of anyone if they need anything, kind of just be there to help, basically.
Has that got harder as your role has got more in the team? You know what? Sorry, just because I was watching the broadcast at the weekend, and it now seems the camera goes to the team manager when someone has come down the hill and has done good or bad. Yeah. And I remember I actually thought, okay, you've kind of got to know the camera's on you, because if you're like...
yeah, exactly that. And this is a funny thing, because I am now at the top of the hill for the start. We've sort of worked out that's probably the best use of my my skill set, is to help the riders at the top of the hill. So I'm not normally down the bottom, but in Leogang, I raced down as soon as Gracie was in the start hut, because I sort of had a feeling, I was like, I think she's going to do the business. So I got her all set up, and she went into the start gate, and I just absolutely ran to the lift station, jumped on the lift station, watched her run on my phone on the way down, and then ran into the finish line. And then you could sort of see the other riders coming down, and it's a hard one, because I never want to celebrate. Like, you could tell Valley wasn't going to beat her, because Gracie did an 11, I think it was, and Valley's time clicked over that before she got to the last jump, and I was like, bloody hell, she's won. But you don't. I kind of want to respect the other people who are in that moment at the time. It's really difficult, isn't it? You want to be happy, but then if you're sort of barging past people to get to Gracie, that might be Valley's YT team, and you're like, hang on a second, this is, we've got to respect everyone here. But we're all in it together for, to see the best really from your rider, I think.
Oh man, I find it so interesting, because you work with so many people over the years. There's so many different personalities and different versions of whether it's training, whether it's warming up, whether it's an actual race run. Like, do you have any feeling that a style is best, or is it literally just personality?
Yeah, we kind of touched on it before, didn't we? And it's a really interesting question. I don't think there's a right or wrong, but I think that you can see the people are going to be able to do the business. They're sort of locked in, and they're very focused. That sort of hyper focus, I think, is when someone's going to deliver, like that consistency. And whether that consistency is super fast or not quite there can be on so many. It could be on the track, it could be on bike setup, it could be on a number of different things. But if you know that they're going to go out there and give you, like, what astonishes me with these people is the fact that their race run is often their fastest run of the weekend. And when I was racing, I might do a practice run, and I was like, I wish I could got the time for that one. That was going to be a good one. And then I get to the race run, and I'm like, oh, that was a bit notchy. I was like, the corner wasn't great, or I messed that bit up. Yeah. And that's what I can really respect. And I think I try and kind of really understand how to get that person in the right place. So if you've got someone who is probably quite nervous, you flapping around, tinkering with stuff and, flapping around them just going to make it worse. So you've got to just try and stay super calm, because it will just sort of rub off on them, really. Okay. But someone who's completely in the zone, you could probably be doing a million things and they just wouldn't even know. They're just like, I don't even know what's going on here.
I'm interested as well, pre-season, because obviously from social media and from various things you watch people's team camps, and they look like everyone's having a whale of a time. And the reality of a race run is it's not really a whale of a time. A lot of people say, I'm just having fun out there on their interviews or whatever. It's not. You don't buy that. I don't really buy it personally. But at what time do you start ramping the, what's the word? At what time do you start putting together or encouraging runs that are actually at race pace? Because race pace looks quite fast these days.
I kind of look at it as the structure, how we structure it. So in New Zealand, it was more about getting them on the bike and getting a decent setup. The girls were obviously wanting to ride jumps because of hard line and getting ready for that. But then it got to a point where you're like, these jumps aren't actually going to help anymore, because hard line's that next level again. So unless you're riding Dream Track, any other track isn't really going to challenge that. And so it was trying to get them on rougher terrain, really to help the bike set up. But I deliberately didn't want any timing. I didn't want to worry about that. Danny loves his timing, and he like leans into that quite a lot. And he's got that much experience that I know that's the right thing for him. He'll want to do 10 runs. He'll want to bang them out and he'll want to be done. And I really like that. But for other people, that won't work for them. I want them to feel different tracks, work out what they like, work out the bike. But then when we went to Portugal, that was much more. We had the timing system on. Everyone knew where the splits were. You know, we wanted to start creating a bit of structure, and also to see whether you're on pace, because this is it, isn't it? The clock just doesn't lie.
Yeah.
So if you've got one rider who's putting in a 1:10 and the other rider's putting a 1:16 on that same top split, there's a problem with one of them, you know. And it worked really well in Portugal, because we did that in Portugal, and at the end of it we had a test race, and there was like this Portugal test event, and this is where I think Danny really, he said something so funny about Greg. So Greg was there, and we've been working hard to get this bike set up for Danny. There's so much adjustability, and on a new bike, how you want it to ride and everything like that. And Danny, he was struggling to get a bike that was, you know, we're still working on it, to be honest, to get it absolutely bang on for him. And he gets down, he was a bit disappointed. He said he couldn't really feel the grip on the front, this, that, and the other. Anyway, we jump on our trainer bikes and ride back to the house, which is probably 25-minute ride. So we go back to the house. He has a shower. I'm starting to pack my bike up because we're going home the next day. And then Danny, I can see Danny on the phone. He comes up to me. He's like, we've got to go back to the venue. Greg's been working on the suspension. We need to do some more runs. So it's like 5 o'clock. The race is finished. The guys are taking the tapes down. So I drive Danny back.
Wow.
And then I'm doing shuttles for Danny. And Greg's trackside filming. And then I've been sent trackside to film so we can compare the suspension and the grip and everything. And I'm in the shuttle with Danny, and he's like, I think I understand now why Greg's had such a good career.
That is so
It
cool.
was amazing. Like, I had Danny Hart, like multiple world champions, sat there going, Greg Minnaar's a savage. You know what I mean? And Greg wasn't happy with something he'd seen on the setup. And he was like, well, let's go back. And then, so Danny had the clock. So we had Danny against the clock on a track where all the tape had gone, everyone had gone home, and he beat his race run or matched his race run. And to do that after a day's race where you've gone home and had a shower, I was like, fair play to you. That's, you know, and it was a much more comfortable run for him. So we knew we were going in the right direction.
Wow.
But yeah, it was pretty cool to sort of see Greg. He just relentless in terms of like, it's like that continual progression. And
what's it been like seeing that dynamic, I guess, of Danny and Greg competing against each other for so long? Then all of a sudden they're on the same team, and Greg's amazing.
Yeah, it's been really interesting because Greg's suddenly fallen into this. He's kind of got a really interesting role in the team. So he's team director, but his role seems to like evolve and change depending on the circumstance. So in Poland, he was at the bottom going through GoPros. And he would basically sit there in the pits, and the riders would come down. He'd go through the GoPro with them and discuss stuff. And then I'd be on the track, and then he'd tell me what they were looking at, or what we're going to try and do here. And he'd also link with the bike setup. So he's been really good at linking between the athlete, what the athlete's feeling, and then the mechanics and the technical guys, what they're putting into the bike. He's the perfect bridge between the two. But he's just willing to do whatever. And he'll be like, Alan, where do you want me? What do you want me to do? And that's kind of cool, because I didn't know how that relationship would be this year, whether it would be Greg telling me what to do or me telling Greg what to do. And I was like, well, this will be interesting. But honestly, we've not had a crossword about anything. I think the only crossword me and Greg will ever have is he'll want me to drink more. And I'm like, I'm the wrong guy for that. You know what I mean? So that's the only time we're ever going to have any friction. He'll want to drink 2 bottles of wine and I want to go to bed. So, but apart from that, when it comes to the riding side, yeah, we're both pushing him in the right direction, I think.
So I know this is probably something for Greg to speak on, so excuse me if it's a weird question, but like, did you know that he was retiring at the end of last year?
Yeah.
So that was already in the plan. So like, he joined Norco.
Yeah.
Did a year, I think.
Yeah.
Is that correct? So left Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
So it was already kind of in the plan for Greg to
Yeah,
retire,
exactly.
and then fall into this position. Where is that now?
Exactly. He sort of had this team director role pretty much from the get-go.
Okay.
And it was, I think we had to change focus a little bit because of when Warner Brothers came out with these sort of new sort of 6-rider teams and, you know, the points and all the rest of it. It did make things a little different than we'd probably first envisaged.
Okay.
Because we had to suddenly step up and think, well, we're going to need to increase the rider lineup here. And that was kind of a big change from potentially having a more junior development focused route that you could have gone down. And you could see Greg being that mentor figure because he's such a good guy in that respect. And he's so good at helping the riders and understanding what they're going through. And I can sort of say, look, go and have a word with, you know, Bodie about this because you'll know exactly, you'll be better to speak on it than me. And it's really good because I think Greg's always almost been too reserved in offering an opinion with other racers when he was racing because he didn't feel as though it was his place, which astonishes me because I think any rider would have just gone, just tell me what to do, mate. I'll happily do it. But now he feels as though he's got a bit more room to say, well, you know what, I consider doing it this way. And they'll listen.
It's kind of rad to have the goat in your corner, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't it? It's got to be good.
Mad. Yeah.
He was always quite particular about setup as well, wasn't he? He had a lot of opinions on setup and reasoning behind
Massively.
all of them. Yeah.
And he's still got that. He's really particular. And I think he's really pushing the engineers on the bike and he really wants certain things. And if me and Greg watch the same piece of footage, and this is my development is so cool because if we watch the same piece of footage, I will be looking at the rider, Greg will be looking at the bike. And I learned that really, I was like, we're looking at completely different things. So I'm looking at how the rider's loading the bike and how the rider is on the bike in terms of their position. And Greg's looking at like the suspension and if their fork's actually getting into its travel or whether it's going too much or the balance of the bike. And I'm like, bloody hell, you can see that? But then we start to do more together and I'm like, So Greg will say, I need this footage and I know exactly where to go because I know exactly what he's looking at now. He needs to see this corner. He's going to see this loading on the rear wheel. And then sure enough, he's like, it's a perfect corner. And I'm like, hey, this is cool. We're on the same page and we're sort of working together to solve the problem.
That sounds a lethal combination, if you ask me. It's quite interesting at a minute because I feel like there are there's a bit of a shift in bike setup or position, let's say. Yeah. Like, did you guys talk about that a lot? Are you trying to switch anything up or is there just kind of a way?
No, I think you have to sort of look at the rider's technique and how they would naturally be on the bike. And sometimes the rider leads the bike setup and sometimes the bike actually sends the rider into a position. So when Lena, for example, our junior rider, I've been coaching her for probably 18 months before she joined the team and sort of on her fitness and putting together a structure week for her. And when she came to training camp, I was like, her position's not the best, and I was like, right, let's try and dig into it. And again, I'm looking at the rider, Greg's looking at the bike, and we sort of come together and we realised that she has literally put the bike together out of the box and ridden it, and she hadn't adjusted like lever angle or this, that and the other, and she'd taken the base setting, and we were like, you know what, if we change this and change that, all of a sudden she comes into this much more like natural position that I'd be looking for. So the two things you can't split apart. If your bike's too soft at the back and too hard at the front, you're never going to get any grip on that front wheel. It's just going to be how it is. If your levers are sort of dropped right down, you're never going to be able to drop your wrists and sort of stay nice and tall. You're sort of like kind of cranked over with your elbows up. And the problem is if you hit a bump or a rock or a compression, you're just going to be pitched forward. So those are the things that you're sort of trying to put together. And it was really cool to get Lena in this position where I was like, hey, you look a million times better. And then she was riding really, really well. And then Greg was like, should we do a couple of laps together? And I'm like, this is mental. The girl's 16 and she's got Greg kind of follow cam.
Wow.
So
holy.
Yeah.
Quick ad break. All right, welcome to the ad break, and I've got a great anecdote to start off this ad read for our new sponsor, PEDROS Tools.
Oh, yeah.
So when I was younger growing up, my dad was a car mechanic, and he also looked after my dirt bike, and we had a thing called Steve Tight. Mate, I had the rigidest bikes you've ever seen.
Dad's
Everything was cranked up. The amount of bolts, dude, they'd round off. He wanted a, what would you call it? A cylinder head bolt on a YZ85, and it was a nightmare.
Just dads, they love it. They do stuff
Just
too
swing
tight.
off stuff, dude. He'd be bouncing off stuff.
Well, I tell you what, Davey, I've got a product right here that you could have done with when you were younger.
I could have. What we got?
Well, you look on any of your pivots, right? And they've all got the torque on
They
them.
have, yeah. Yeah.
And then you think about getting stuff out and putting it together and getting the right torque. And what does it feel like?
What
I
does
don't
it feel
even know.
like? What's 5 Newton meters? What's
It's
4
not
Newton
even
meters?
a problem anymore.
Oh.
4 Newton meters, we got you with a fixed torque driver.
Ah, that's the yellow one.
That's right. That's the yellow one, and you've got a number of different bits that you can still put in it, and there's storage in handle.
Do you want to do the song?
Which one is it?
The 4, a 5, a T25. It's got a 4, a 5, a
T25. It's got
T25.
a 4, a 5, a T25. That's right. I'm really excited to get my
these are sick.
to get my horrible hands on these. 4,
Yeah.
but you need a 5.
Yeah.
That's not a problem, dude.
Orange one.
Orange one.
5.
And do you know what that's got? A 4, a 5, and a T25. A 4, a 5,
a T25.
Let's say you got 6. Maybe it's your main pivot.
Yep.
The 5's not going to do it. The 4's not going to do it, is it?
No.
That's why we got the green.
Got a green one. All right. And what's that got in it?
A
4, a 5, a T25.
Honestly, these are so handy though, eh? Because
Yeah, it's a dream product. Really
it
cool.
really is,
You know what?
especially if you
I
can't
also
bother to
just
think.
thought back to when we were selling handlebars through my old distribution company.
Yeah.
We'd have a lot of people like, oh, I've crumpled my carbon bars.
Yeah,
And that's
cockpits are
because
a
no one
prime
knows what
example.
5 or 4 Newton meters feels like.
you sort of guess, don't you?
You're just
But-
like, yeah, that'll do.
well, these make a reassuring click. I tried one earlier. It's really nice. You only use them in the clockwise direction. They've all been calibrated. You can see there's the calibration information. Ooh, right.
Ooh.
That's on the back.
And the date it was done and everything.
It's really cool.
Crazy.
They're really good quality tools. Hyped
Yes.
to have them on board.
And we have a whopper of a discount as well.
You're joking.
We do, mate.
You didn't tell me about this.
Mate, you think I'm going to come here empty-handed without a discount for the companionship?
Oh,
Come on. All right. If you head over to Apex-DST, which is short for distribution.
Okay, yeah.
If you're struggling, Google it. Apex
Yeah.
Distribution, UK distribution company, and they handle all PEDROS, I hope that's how you say it, sales in the UK. And we have set up a discount code exclusively for the podcast companionship listeners and viewers, okay? You can get yourself a whopper of 15% discount. All right, not
That
just off
is
the
nice.
fixed torque driver with a 4, a 5, and a T25. Anything on site. They got multi-tools. They got
Dude,
chain tools.
Are you serious? They have literally everything.
Every-
It's actually
bike
insane.
stands. That bike stand is so
it's-
sick.
Yeah, and the burrito tool roll. That's what a lot of my friends have. The burrito tool roll is really
That's
nice.
nice.
It's like World Cup quality tools in a
Literally.
roll.
Yeah.
So nice.
Mate. Apex-DST.UK. Use the code The Ride Companion. It's easy to remember. It's the same on most websites. The Ride Companion. It is in lower case for this website, and you're going to get yourself 15% discount delivered direct to your door. No more cracked handlebars. No more stiff
the dream.
bikes. Just great products.
15% off's brilliant as well. I actually can't do this advert anymore because I'm going through all of the pages of products, so
It's
I'm
nice,
getting my
isn't it?
order in. Thanks, Pedro.
Thank you, PEDROS. We appreciate you. Back to the episode. Great ad break.
Do you know what? I think I always, like probably many people, talking to you makes me realise I always seek the right answer, what the best position is on a bike, what the best setup is, what the fastest way to race is. And I think talking to you makes me realise there really is not one answer, right?
Yeah, I'd agree. I think that there probably is a wrong answer though.
Okay.
Do you see what I mean?
Ooh. And
So-
do you have the wrong answers?
Yeah, you can set you. I think the wrong answers are relatively easy to spot, and you can
Right.
see things that are gonna cause problems in either a bike setup or a position or something.
Yeah.
And when you're on a World Cup circuit, they're not that glaringly obvious because obviously we're talking about the world's very best. And then you go, like I was at an IXS Cup pre-season at Fort William with Danny and Lena, and we were doing that event, and in your trackside there, and you've got a wider spread of ability, should we say, and you're like, this is interesting, right? And it's funny because you can see what why they're having these problems from a coaching point of view. And I'm not saying it's easy to fix, but I think you can help somebody improve. You know, I think coaching is still underrated in mountain biking. I think it's still underutilized in mountain biking. In any other sport, it's something that, you know, there is a technical model that you aim for and you try and practice it. And it's you know, we were chatting earlier about at dinner about like trying to switch off, and like when mountain biking is what you love doing and you come back and you ride your mountain bike for fun, it's kind of, some people find that a bit odd almost. And I've got to the point where sometimes I need something, a completely separate hobby, so I'm not thinking about anything. And I've started playing golf, and that's a rabbit hole because that's all a technical model. There's literally like, there's a million people on the internet who'll tell you how to swing a golf club. So some sports are really kind of lean into that. And then other sports, I think it's probably a bit harder. I can't imagine surfing, for example, is, you know, or skateboarding. Is there a right way or wrong way, or is it a style thing? You know, I've listened to some podcasts with skateboarders, and they all talk about, you know, their way of doing it and expressing themselves. And I feel as though there is a technicality to it, but they're a lot freer in how they do it. Yeah.
It's a great, what's the like number one thing that you'd say when you stood at the side of an IXS or whatever that's not a World Cup, that you see and go, this is like a common thread that needs changing?
I'd say that if you were to watch someone ride past you on a technical section and their heels are up and their knees are bent and their bum is back, you're going to struggle. You're not going to be at one with the bike. It's kind of a concertina effect. If you can get them to drop their heels a little bit more, push their knees a little bit further back and bring their hips in, they're taller on the bike. You find that they act as one with the bike. And that's something that you can see. Also, the fact that they can't really push any force through the floor. You watch the heels fluttering around because they're on their tiptoes. You know, any force coming kind of up from the floor as the bike's coming down into it, you're not really able to push back against because it's not a strong position to be in. Yeah. So you're trying to find a nice strong position. And the other one is if someone's rolled their wrists forward to get their elbows up, you'll probably hear that as a common coaching cue, you know, get your elbows up. But there has to be like a split between the wrist and the elbow. You know, you do it, Bren does it really well. You drop the wrists down. So you're actually pushing behind the bar, not over the front of the bar. Yeah. And if you see someone who's kind of hunkered down, their elbows are up, but their wrists are going to just blow forward, they're not actually able to push down and get that grip into the front wheel as well. So those are sort of some of the things that you can see. And there are some riders that might break the mold a little bit in the way they ride, and some really tall riders kind of have almost a horizontal back, and then you've got people like Jackson and Danny who are quite tall in the back. Yeah. So yeah, these things, there's differences.
Yeah. And how long does it take usually for someone to start adopting those different techniques? Is it something that takes like a lot of time to keep drilling it almost until you've got it, or can you?
I think it's how aware you are. I think the things that I've found working with, I've worked with, you know, amateur riders to up and coming junior riders to world champions. You find the most dangerous people and the hardest people, should we say, to coach, the ones that think they kind of know it. Right. That's the hardest thing.
Being good at being coached.
Yeah, you need to be good at being coached. I think that certain riders are so coachable, and that could be anything. That could be a technical thing. It could be listening for some advice on something. I'd say that's one of Danny's real strengths, is he's so coachable. He's willing to listen. He's like, what do you want to say? And Greg, to be fair, Greg was really coachable, you know, which again, you'd be like thinking, really? This guy, you know, he's willing to listen, but he always wants to get better. If there's something he thinks he could be better at, he's all ears. And Danny's the same. And it could be how you structure a week, or how many runs to do, or whether you think there's something he should alter. Because sometimes you'll come up with a line choice or a approach to a section, and you'll be like, look, I think you should do it this way. And then you'll present your evidence. This is why I think that.
Okay.
It's completely up to you.
Yeah, and it can help in so many ways, can't it? Like I always think of the one, if you go out with someone who's less experienced and you just tell them to look up a bit, it's like they're not literally they're just thinking about looking ahead, you know? They're not like literally putting their head up and looking. They're not really, the angle isn't changing anything. They're probably their head is probably staying in the same place, but just their eyes, they're just thinking about what's coming at them.
Yeah.
It's like a nice way of saying you're staring at what's come underneath you.
Yeah.
In a way, look
Yeah.
up doesn't mean literally.
Absolutely.
It means just like, don't do what you're doing.
Yeah.
And in that performance, I guess that's like a performance cue, is it? Or
Yeah, for sure. And just what you said, you see on a World Cup track. So you might have a section where, so you come into a section and then you've got to turn right round a corner, but on the inside of the apex is a tree or a pad or something, and it actually blocks your view through the turn. And therefore your eyesight gets drawn to the apex of the turn. And you can still remind a rider, look, you've got to look past that apex, because what will happen is you'll come in, you'll overbrake it, and you won't carry the exit speed out. And they know they're going to be able to do it a million times better than I'll ever do it. But you're just reminding them, actually, this is something to bear in mind, because when they come charging in, the natural thing, and sometimes the way the trees frame the track, it actually frames your view really not where you want it to be. So you're just trying to remind them, actually, make sure you keep looking through that bit.
Yeah.
Or that there's a key corner where you're better off going in a little bit slower to come out faster, as opposed to coming in hot, over braking, and then you've lost all your speed for a transition bit.
Okay.
And that was one of the things that was really cool to work with Gracie on in Leogang.
Okay.
Because the top section of the track wasn't that difficult, but it was flat out and it was carrying speed, and we could see from her time training runs and her qualifying that she wasn't that strong in that area. But when she got to the woods, she was it was ridiculous. Like the first practice session we were in, I remember just like laughing to myself, like the speed she was carrying. Like it just reminded me of when I was working with Rachel Afton. I was just like, this is ridiculous. Like it's just different gravy. And I was like so excited I was really excited for her. But then I was like, look, this isn't the bit we need to worry about. So I actually changed my focus on the track. I was like, we don't need to worry about this bit. You're fine here. How can we get you to this bit in spitting distance of the lead time? Because then you'll be fine. And so we spent quite a lot of time trying to review the top half of the track and where the differences were. And we found a bit in the,
dude, where are the differences? Because it
is really hard to see, isn't it? And in this instance, kind of, I was looking at some of the other riders and they were just going a bit further to hit a backside, and just carrying the speed. And I think it would be fair to say that when you talk about Gracie, you've got a takeoff and you've got a landing, and Gracie's all about the takeoff. She's just boosts.
Right.
But that pumping and that generating speed on a landing isn't necessarily top of what she's thinking about in a jump. But that was actually the key thing. You've got to carry that speed. And the motorway section had these weird rollers in it. They're almost like a spaced out pump track rollers.
Yeah.
And it wasn't great, but there was a rhythm that you needed. And if you could see when people were in practice and they ended up taking off the last one and landing on the flat, it was just no good. You had to double and get that downside and carry the speed out. So, you're just, if you think about a track, it's quite easy for a rider on a bit that's not that hard, maybe to not focus on it as much.
Yeah.
I'll just wait till the tough bit, when actually it's the bit in between that you're trying to say, no, this is the bit where you'll make a second or half a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the key to the race is sort of almost hidden in an obvious place almost, yeah.
It really is. And we've seen it time and time again, that where the race might be won isn't necessarily on that big feature. It's on something else that just makes the difference and carries them speed, or they've just actually backed off a little bit and not gone crazy on a certain thing. So, yeah, it's a big puzzle.
Leogang's a great segue, really, into talking about average speeds.
Yeah, it's fast track.
And I guess when this comes out with Val di Sole will be behind us now.
Yeah.
That's quite fast as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But Val di Sole points down a lot more.
Yeah.
Like generally Val di Sole points down and is pretty chunky.
Okay. What's your thoughts on it, man?
I get a little disappointed when I go back to Leogang, I think, now, because the track is just the same track, but with more gravel. It just seems as though it's like really smooth, really fast. The stump sections, we all know where we're going when we go into them. They seem to be taking corners out as opposed to adding corners.
Okay.
And
making it straighter?
Yeah, making it faster. And I don't think that shows the difference in the rider. I think when you're racing, if you've got everyone within half a second, it's really hard for the viewer to understand who's the best bike rider when they're watching it, because everyone looks the same.
It's like who's tucked most.
Yeah, it's like,
Which
what's the
is so
difference?
boring.
And I mean, if you think about downhill skiing, how tight those times are, when you watch them, it's really hard to... I remember I used to watch Ski Sunday all the time, and I don't know if you've ever watched Ski Sunday, but you'll hear the commentator, oh, he's messed that turn up. I was like, that turn looked exactly the same as every other guy going around every turn.
Yeah.
I just can't... I'm like, I clearly don't understand ski racing. And in mountain biking, it'd be a shame if it went to that, where there'll be like a little, someone catches the turn late and just sort of shroups the turn. And oh, he's lost his speed. That's it. The run's done. You know, it'd be a shame if downhill went to that degree. But I think if you were able to maybe add more corners in and slow it down, it allows the opportunity for someone like Jackson to go, well, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to jump all the way down there.
Yeah.
And that will be wild, because everyone else will be doing this and he'll just be like a jackrabbit and clear the lot. And you'll be like, well, there's where he's made his time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All of a sudden.
I completely agree. We kind of talked about it already, so I already know your answer. But your ideal race, the most exciting version of downhill mountain biking, are all of the times really, really tight, or all of the times slightly more spread apart?
To me, they're all spread apart. What is a better storyline than when Sam Hill pulls everyone's pants down at Val di Sole, or Gwynny, or, you know what I mean? All of these things where you're like, totally. Whoa. Because I think at Leogang, I think Piron was a real head scratcher. You know, the run looked fine. There was nothing noticeably wrong with that race run, and he was off the pace. And that's a real head scratcher. You almost want the rider to, like, Benoit made a mistake, came off, got back on, came off, and you could see he was probably on for a good result if he didn't do that.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea of rewarding excellence, and it's not, you know what I mean? It's like you've done really well there, mate.
I went to the arena cross and Dean Wilson was there, and in practice basically he did a quad in first moto, and like, if there's anything that's going to get me go back to childhood fan of these sports, it is that. It is like, did he just do that?
There you go.
He just did that. That's incredible. Or Sam Hill, he's got a line in his head. He's keeping it secret. Maybe he's told his teammate. Yeah. Like, those days were so exciting. Yeah. And you hear it through the pits. You hear, like, did you see where he went on that? On his last practice run, he went up late, and then he's... Like, that's so exciting to me.
It is really exciting. And I think that Supercross, I went to watch the Birmingham Supercross, and I think the tracks were similar, and exactly that. There was a quad into a left-hander, and you're like, there's no way he's going to be able to pull that. And then sure enough, they do it. And then everyone else is like, if we want to keep up, we're going to have to do that. And Ludenville had those sections, that big stall wall where they were jumping, you know, absolutely to the moon.
Yeah, that was cool, actually.
But you had to get this little backside. And if you didn't, you wouldn't make the next corner. And that was, for me, that was brilliant. It's like, right, roll the dice, hit the backside, beat a hero, miss the corner, your race run's done. And that was, everyone was figuring out that was almost too much. I don't really think anyone did it in the race run. No. And then lower down,
the one that Ronan did.
That's it. Yeah. And then there was a section lower down that the cameras unfortunately didn't do justice to, because it was gnarly. They were kind of jumping. They were jumping over a track and landing on like a lily pad, and then jumping down between two trees back onto the bike park track. And the timing to do that was just immense, because if you didn't get it right, you would just kamikazed over the front. But the way the camera was, it just didn't. Right. That was a really risky one. And Gracie was becoming more and more confident on that track. And there was that section. And then lower down, there's a section where you sort of step, like a natural step down. And that's pretty wild, like the consequences. And she was like, I want to do that step down. And I was just like, oh, bloody hell. And I kind of got all paternal. And I was like, look, it's not my, you know what I mean? I can't kind of show this anxiety, because she's a credible bike rider, she'll be fine. And then Greg phoned me and I said, where are you? He's like, I'm on a step down. Gracie wants to do a step down. And Greg was exactly the same. And I was like, look, and he was like, stay on the phone, she's coming in to do it. Oh, phew, she hasn't done it. I was like, right, that's it, she's not doing the step down. I'm going to phone her now. Because no one else was like, there was no need to do it. And I think But that's cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because she was like, right, I've got the confidence. I want to really take my time. This is where I can take it. But if you've got something that everyone can do, it's really hard. Like you're being rewarded for your, like how much you're willing to risk. Like, are you willing to risk a huge crash just to not touch the brakes and see if you can keep grip versus doing something super technical?
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of these things almost go into the same category. Like you have one avenue that suggests that the same tracks, like they don't have to change much, the same venues, the times get closer, and that's better racing. Like there is an argument that closer times is more exciting racing, maybe, that the field is closer together. And then there's the argument that you want it to be, I would say probably we're all sat here thinking the same thing. Like you'd rather have a new track, you'd rather have it loose with loads of options for crazy, for time to be made up, and therefore having the times further apart. Yeah. And does that, like, who makes the decision, and does it come down to where we want who decides on where the sport goes, and like what even is what is downhill it comes into, doesn't it?
I know what is downhill, and because you've got an opportunity to like carve out this sport. You know, I think Warner Brothers are the ones that are guiding that, and I'd love to like understand their vision, because for them it's like a TV package, because at the end of the day it's an entertainment package.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to reach a bigger audience, a much higher proportion of that audience will be kind of a neutral and not an expert.
Yeah.
So it's an easier thing to understand if everyone's doing a similar thing, but as you go further through the broadcast, they're getting faster and faster, and that's where seeding comes in. And this is something that was quite an interesting one. One of my friends was saying today, so we get Q1, where if we're talking about the men here, the top 20 go through. So you've got all the starters, everyone who's signed up to start the race enters Q1. The top 20 go through. If you're not in the top 20, you have to go again in Q2, and only the top 10 go through. But the times actually are getting faster in Q2, because if you've got a top rider who's made a mistake, they're like, right, sod this. I've only got 10 positions left. I'm going to go again. So Andy Kolb in Q2 actually put in, I think, the fastest time of the day.
No way.
So he was faster than Q1. But Andy Kolb was seeded 21st because he was the first of the last 10. And that can sort of play with the seeding, because in actual fact, he's gone faster than everyone else that day. You know, he's made a mistake or he's had a problem. So I wonder, the suggestion made to me was that it should be shuffled around. So it was actually on the fastest time backwards. You know, so instead of the top 20 and top 10, you then actually reseed them based on their times.
Yeah.
And that was interesting to me. I thought, good point. Because in theory, you know, Colby's time was the fastest of that day, although he had an extra run at it. And then those people who've had the extra run, actually it's an advantage for them, because they've got another run on that track. And we always see they go faster and faster and faster. So I love Q1 and Q2. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
I think it's great, but it is for the casual fan, it's difficult because you don't see it. So all of these storylines you're talking about, obviously you're there at the race, you know about Andy, you've seen what's been playing out, whereas you tune into the broadcast and you're just like, where's X rider? Or if you don't know where to go and find the information. Yeah. And that's the bit. I agree with you. I love it. I really enjoy it. And I love, if you relate it to Supercross or something, I love the heats and then an LCQ. Yeah. But the thing is, you get to see it and you understand the storylines. They need to. I think if you had the commentary on Q1, it would probably be as exciting as anything. Yeah. Because you'll have a rider that will go down quite. Because again, that's in reverse order. So the fastest. So the 21st place from Q1 will go last in Q2. So you've got the guy who was last in Q1 will go first in Q2. So you can sometimes find that there's like a privateer who's in first place and he's staying there. You're like, bloody hell, this guy might. This kind of new rider or underrated rider might get through, and then gradually get shuffled down. You're like, right, he's in 8th place now.
We've still got these riders to go. Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? There's a hell of a storyline there.
Yeah,
it is. I find it so exciting. It's a change that I really like.
Yeah.
I think the idea that Kolb has the potential to sit on the hot seat for that whole time, like, it is cool when riders get faster and faster and people get knocked off, but then also it is quite cool there's someone on the hot seat and you just watch them sit there.
Yeah, he's just putting a banger. Just sat there for an hour and a half going, what's just happening?
I mean, there's something really cool about it, isn't there? There's something really cool about these big dogs going into Q2 and then going down early. It makes it quite a fun watch for me.
I think that's because, playing devil's advocate, I think that's because we know the riders and we know the sport.
Yeah, okay.
If you're a casual viewer, I do wonder whether, like, I don't understand this. The guy's sat on the seat, no one's beating him.
Bit of a shit show.
A bit of an anticlimax. Because I thought Leogang potentially was a bit of an anticlimax in that respect. It looked as though, you know, for whatever reason, the times weren't getting closer and Jackson had put an unreal run, you know, a worthy winner. But you would have liked Jackson to have done that at the end. Because that would have been the show, wouldn't it? Like, Jackson comes down last, puts that... Yeah, exactly.
Make it happen,
It's hard to script that.
So it jumbles the script a bit, Q1, Q2.
Potentially, but then I think there's always been that because you've had the protected riders and then you're like, how come he's coming down at this time? There's always been that.
I'd say once I understood Q1 and Q2, I would say actually I found it easier to follow in some ways than the protected riders.
Agreed.
Because the protected riders I found really difficult. I couldn't keep on top of it.
Because there was like a series rider, there was riders from last year, and it was like really, I could never get my head around it.
But at the same time, you know, it's like if you went to a race to watch Loic and he's not in finals, you'd be like, oh.
Well, so this is the one.
Which is kind of the...
It's a funny one because if you've got... So Ronan in Ludenville had 2 punctures.
Yeah.
Wrote off 2 wheels, didn't get through to the
Fans
final.
are there. They've got the big heads. It's not in.
It's not even in.
Yeah.
But I've come to see Ronan race because Ronan's a savage.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, he got punctured, he can't race.
So
it's really difficult. And I think that if Amory or if Loic or if Jackson were to have 2 punctures and not get through, then maybe people will start to go, we actually need them racing. We need these guys there.
Yeah. Okay,
and the same with the girls. It's exactly the same. I think with the girls, the field is getting deeper and deeper, and that's amazing. And it's the way the girls are riding the bikes now is like their style is much closer to the men's style. And, you know, they're kind of one and the same and interchangeable. And in a way, I think that's a really good thing because class is class, isn't it? Quality is quality, technique's technique.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to say, you know, this technique's good for a girl or good for a boy. I think in any other sport, you'd be like, it's good or there's bad. And now we're seeing that the girls have got some incredible technique, the style in the jumps and, you know, hitting technical sections really well.
Times are way closer as well.
Times are way closer.
Way closer. And I saw someone posted something and it was really like quite shocking. It was like...
Yeah.
I'm not going to
Well, I think Gracie was 0.8. I think she won by 0.8. And, you know, that's, you know, within a second over that track with everything going on from, you know...
Insane. It's that
It's
close.
really cool.
Yeah.
And we're seeing the junior girls, again, developing. So, like, Lena... you should, if you don't follow Lena Frenner on Instagram, you should see this latest reel she's put up. She's doing like they're like scrub whips in Leogang, and I'm just like, this is just ridiculous. And I have like my friends going, have you seen how that girl whips?
It's so cool.
It's so good, and to me that's so exciting.
Yeah,
you know,
playing hypothetical broadcast situations. Could it be done on the same day, or is it too much? Q1, Q2, and race.
No, I think it's too much.
That's too much.
Yeah, I think it's too much.
Okay.
Logistically, it's really hard.
I'm just thinking from a broadcast perspective, could that be something, hey, if you want to tune in the day, you get to watch quali, you can have a whole day watching racing, but it's too much.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
The problem is that also from the fatigue of the rider, if you think about it, Q1 has to be all in. You can't sandbag Q1.
No.
It's, you know, you just
Race
can't get through anymore.
Yeah.
So if you go Q1, you don't get through, you're like, oh, I've just given everything I've got. Right, okay, let's go again. Q2, everything you've got. I think you'd be at a massive disadvantage for a race run final if you've done those, you know, the consequential fatigue.
Yeah.
And if you get through Q2, you just want to go into bed, really. You're just like, oh, I'm done now.
I'm sure it was a not dumb, but like,
no,
we're just playing, how do we make this thing better?
Yeah, for sure. But
you know?
I'd say that to me, it's how the riders enjoy the tracks. If you've got riders that are absolutely buzzing on the track and there's loads of variation and you've got some fresh dirt in there and you've got some new line choices, you get a rider that's super excited. But if you could watch last year's GoPro and pretty much be on every line before you've even started, that to me is a bit of, like, we watched last year's GoPros before track walk every race, because we know that there's going to be that many sections that are similar. We may as well just get on the race line straight away. And, and you can also go, well, this will end up here. You just know from experience, you're going to end up here. That's what's going to happen. The track's going to get pushed out. That berm's going to get pushed out. That rut's going to form. Those logs are going to come out under there. And in a way, you can say, well, that's because of your experience. You've been doing it for so long. But I don't want to be able to say that. I want to go, I've no idea. Which is the line down here? You know, that to me, also, if you're saying there's big gaps in time, Leger's really good for that. Leger's got a really long second, third split. And you're like, where the hell has he made 4 seconds? I've been up in them woods. But there's like, is he going inside? Is he going outside? Is he doing this line? Is he doing that line? And that's really cool, because I like that head scratching. I want people to be going, did you see what they did there? Yeah, he's got an insane line through there. Yeah, and then they're watching Vital Raw, or they're, you know, phoning John Lawler. Have you got the clip? I want to know what he's doing. I think that to me is really cool. So it's.
I used to love that rider comparisons on lines when you've got 2 teammates following each other, and one's going outside, one's going inside. I just love like working actually with the team. Exactly. Is really cool.
Yeah, it's really. You see that Giants are good at that. They've got 3 riders that work really well together, and they'll trial different lines. And I know Intense, Joe and Oscar might try different stuff. And Andy Kolb and Charlie, when they're on Athertons, are really good at that. And I think that collaboration, you know, using your teammates is brilliant. And we try and do that trackside to try and, it's never the same unless it's the same rider, but you can get an idea whether something's, like there was a line that some of the boys were doing in Leogang, and I was astonished. I was like, I've timed that. I've spent hours timing that. It's slower. I don't know why you're doing it. And it fascinates me because there'll be a reason. They're not stupid. Nah. They know why they're doing it, and there'll be a reason behind it. And I'd love to have that discussion with him, because I've thought long and hard about it and decided that wasn't the route to go down. And so it's brilliant in that respect, I think.
We had Chaos in here recently, Chaos Seagrave, and he was talking a bit about how this Q1, Q2 thing could really affect a rider's mental performance, basically. If you don't make finals 2 or 3 times, it's really going to start playing on you. Have you had any examples of that within the Norco team? Have you seen it elsewhere? Do you agree with it?
Yeah, I'd say what was frustrating, so Poland, Bodie was 21st in Q1. So just missed out and had to come back for Q2. Yeah. And then didn't put it together in Q2 and didn't get through, which is incredibly frustrating. And then he unfortunately had quite a big crash in Ludenville that sort of wrote him out. And then Danny, he's gone through Q2 for the first couple of rounds, and in the third round he was off the pace. And it was kind of the bottom section of the track, and it was really frustrating because his top split, I think he was 9th. Right. You know, you got speed's no problem, but part of that was kind of in the setup, and we're still chasing a little bit of setup. And it sounds like such a motocross thing to be talking about, chasing setup, but when you've gone through all this analysis and you've seen that on this certain kind of chunky sections, are certain things happening, and it's kind of just sapping a little bit of speed out of him. You almost have to reassure the rider, hey, don't worry about that. We'll get there. And the speed's there on a certain style, you're fine. But it's kind of hard because these riders take it so personally. And, you know, Danny's not a guy who's just packed his bag and traveling around Europe for the shits and giggles. You know, he's a provider. Yeah. You know, he's doing it to support his family. So he wants to do the best job he can. And I think that is hard for a rider. I think that...
And staying again, in that process and letting... and the team work it out. Exactly, is like really
Let's
hard.
Work it out. We've got your back. Yeah. No one's sort of, you know, I think that as on Norco, I feel as though there's a kind of code of conduct I want us all to follow. And one of the key things for that is riders, your job this weekend is to focus on riding your bike, and the staff, our job is to support you. That's like a fundamental. Now, if a mechanic's pissing around or I'm having a coffee with a sponsor as opposed to doing my job, someone needs to give me a bollocking because I'm not supporting the rider. I'm having a jolly. But at the same time, if I see a rider shirking off or not doing their job or cutting it short or making excuses, then they're not doing theirs. But we've never, we don't see that. Everyone's all in. And so therefore, there's no problem. You do your best, I'll do my best. And however it shakes out, no problem.
It strikes me as something that's hard to not be all in on nowadays. Like it really, really, when you compare it to 10 years ago.
Well, this is it. You had people that were, there's loads of examples of lads travelling around Europe having a bloody brilliant time, and they go and get drunk the night before, see how they got on, and then go and get drunk the night after. And it's a very rare thing to see now. You're not there for that. And although you might, drown your sorrows or celebrate afterwards, it's generally not before. And you're trying to do everything, And I'd say sometimes that's frustrating for a rider. Sometimes it's frustrating for a team. If like Tahuto showed incredible speed this year, and he's on this belt drive bike, and everyone's going, he could bloody win this $100,000, and that's really cool. So I think although it's not gone his way so far, I think he's probably buzzing because he's like, if I can string one of these together, drinks are going to be on me.
And what team's Tahuto on?
MS. Yeah, so he's on that zero bike.
Yeah.
So these are the things that it's a bit of a longer season as well. Yeah. So there are more opportunities. You're not having to wait 6 weeks for another race.
There's a lot of hot air, a lot of kind of negativity when you sort of watch any content or anything. It's kind of exhausting. I really like having you here because it's like actually someone who's there. What format changes can you say? What are the format changes like from on the ground? We've talked about Q1, Q2. What other considerations were there for this year?
After the break. Mate, this one is the easiest ad read that we do. We're just going to speak from the heart. WORX have been a sponsor of ours for years, and we've both used the majority of the tools at this point.
Absolutely. I've really sort of redone my house with WORX tools.
Yeah, I've got a plethora.
I bought in mine.
Show and tell.
This is you what? Sorry, yeah, it's show and tell. Exactly. So this is my Hydra shot, and I bought it in because I wanted to do show and tell and talk about the things that I really love about it.
Please,
is that okay?
I'd love for you to do that, please.
So basically, one of the key things beyond the actual function of this, which we'll get into in a second, it's the fact that it's part of the power share system. Now, every single power tool I own, and whether that's garden, home, DIY, my chainsaw, trail building. I've got 2 chainsaws.
Ooh.
I need to actually keep my voice down, otherwise WORX will hear and they'll stop sending me anything. I'm spoiled.
Yeah.
But this power share, this goes in everything I own. So I can't tell you how easy that makes life. Yeah, I've always got something charged up. I'm not the most dialed with like having a set up charging area. So it's always good to know that you've always got batteries.
Yep. True.
Pop it in here in a waterproof case.
Nice. There it is.
And you're off to the races. Now, this I use attached to my hose.
Yep.
But previously, I've used it with the hose connection that goes into a water source. So you can do it from a bucket or a river. So you can have it in the back of your van.
Yeah.
To clean your bike.
Yeah. Super handy. Portable, of course. Like I've done that before. I've finished a ride. I've been parked near a water source, whether it's a puddle or even actually taking water in
Portaloo.
a 25-litre drum.
I saw Davey once
gave it the blue wash down. I dipped it into my bucket that I'd taken.
Yeah.
Washed the bike in the back of the van. Dry when you get home. Sometimes I even use my WORX leaf blower.
No, you don't.
To dry a bike.
I don't have a leaf blower.
Gangster.
I best get on the emails. I'm going to get a leaf blower on the go.
But yeah, love this brand. Love the tools. Super easy. I mean, the Hydra Shot's become a MTB must, hasn't it?
I mean, it really has.
If you don't own one, you may as well not have a bike.
Yeah, your bike's really going to end up landfill.
Yeah, basically yeah.
This is actually the nitro version as well. So this is more powerful.
Some extra beans.
It's got this like adjustable head, so you can adjust like the spray. We don't need to tell you what a pressure washer does. This does what a pressure washer does, but I can't tell you how good it is and how easy it's made my life. And I've been using it for so long. This is literally the easiest advert to do.
It's so good.
Before I had a hose fitting on my house,
Yep.
I used to live in a flat.
Yep.
I used to wheel the bikes into the flat. It was so annoying having muddy bikes. It just meant I had a muddy house. I got this. It literally changed my life. I'm not even joking. I could wash my bikes and I didn't have to live in a pigsty. And then I could get a girlfriend.
Dude.
And look at us now.
This jet wash has changed your entire life.
Yeah, it's meant that I can actually have a partner in life. I'm not just on my own with a muddy house.
I mean, what an endorsement.
It's mind-blowing, isn't it?
Yeah,
It is mind-blowing.
What's even better than that? So people can get a partner, change their life, and save 15%.
How much?
15%, dude.
I
Say
mean,
it again.
the fact, 15%, you're serious. I mean, the fact that they offer this product to general public as something you can just buy is ridiculous enough. And now we're offering it for 15% less.
Mate, you'll never see a single mountain biker again.
I mean, I kind of want to keep it secret a little bit. That's why I was a bit, it's the only downer about doing these ads. I wanted to keep it a bit secret. I don't want everyone to have the secret to my success in life. All right, maybe we're going overboard. We actually, do you know what? It's a product we don't really need to. The Hydro Shot is absolutely unbelievable. And you say we get 15% off. How do we get 15% off?
Head to WORX.com, enter the promo code The Ride Companion. It's on screen right now. The promo code is flashing black and orange. The Ride Companion at WORX.com. Change your life.
The
Clean
Ride
your bike.
Companion at WORX.com.
Yeah, easy as that.
Seems easy.
Is easy.
Change your life too. Thanks, WORX.
Cheers, WORX.
Davey, dude, I was in London the other day.
Yeah?
I had my bike with me and I was locking it up and I had, you know Hiplok, they make the wearable lock.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, this is such a dialed product. You wear it, it locks the bike up, it's super secure. I wish they just did more products because they're so good. It's a shame they only do that, right?
Mate, you'd think so, but you would be very wrong. Hiplok make loads of security products. Like the list is seemingly endless, all right? D-locks, chain locks, cable locks, security ties, folding locks, home storage, accessories. You literally can't go wrong with shopping on hiplok.com. There's everything you're going to need.
Really? Yeah.
Every budget as well, which is really nice.
So, for instance, if I wanted like a, I don't know, like a lock that I could use on a gravel trip, that I could just quickly lock my bike up outside like a coffee shop, let's say.
Funny you should say that, mate.
Yeah.
Honestly, one of my favourite products at the moment is the Z-Lock, okay? It looks like this.
You mean they make it?
They literally make it. It's already done, man. You thought you had a revolutionary idea there, didn't you? But they've already thought of it and already produced it. Look at it, Z-Lock combo, okay? It basically is a cable tie.
Yeah.
Okay? But obviously really strong. So you just have to press that button and do that and it's unlocked. So I was basically putting that in my bag. Then you just press it, sound effect, lock
nice.
it, done. And then you set your own 3-digit combo. Mate, I mean,
That's
I honestly took this
insane.
on that gravel trip I just did. And for locking a bike up at night, or maybe like you say, we stop at a coffee shop. If you just want a bit of security, bit of peace
just
of mind.
quick security.
Quick security.
Do they? But would you say they do something that you could like? Maybe is a bit heavier and kind of a bit more thief-proof. Maybe angle grinders don't get through it.
Mate, that's when you're going to need the D1000.
What? They already do it?
They already do it, dude.
It's in
Angle
my
grinder
hands.
proof. And did you know most bikes are stolen with an angle grinder?
Is that so? Yeah.
That is a fact.
I didn't know that.
It's heavy, isn't it?
It is heavy. It is heavy. I imagine it comes with a heavy price tag as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is upper price tier, but it's also upper security. It's upper peace of mind. You can't go wrong.
But
they start.
Is there any way we can like help people out? Like,
oh, see
you see what I was trying to do there?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. All right. Before we get into that, I just want to say I also just installed an airlock, which is behind me here. So this is like a wall hanger. So basically, you put your bike
very
in
cool.
here.
Yeah,
it's like a nice storage solution as well as super safe.
So we've got the coffee shop. We've got the gravel bike outside.
Yep.
That's taken care of by that.
Yep.
We've got
at home
the bike rack.
Yeah.
Maybe at work you're commuting in. No one's getting through that with an angle grinder. You've also got the garage security.
Yeah, full system, full security. No, you know what I mean? No issues. You're secure, basically, is what we're trying to say.
So basically, if you go on hiplok.com, you're going to find something for your security needs.
Yes, you are. But maybe we should put a little offer in. You know what I mean?
There
we should put a little offer in. You know, we spoke to our friends at Hiplok and we said, hey, can we do something special?
Yeah.
So we're going to do something special.
Yeah.
We're going to give 20% off, okay? Pretty much every product on hiplok.com.
It's not the 1000 series products though, is it?
It isn't.
But it is the D1000. That's right, and that's angle grinder proof. So
It is.
it does include even this monster here.
Yes, we decided to get that chucked in, all right?
Oh, that's really good.
So there are a few other things which you can find out in the T&Cs in the show description, but ultimately 20% off everything at hiplok.com. It's riding season. It means that people are keeping an eye out on your bike, and you don't want that. You want to make sure that you've got peace of mind when you're at home, at the trails, or traveling.
Do you know what? I've been running Hiplok for years and years and years. I used to have a pickup truck, leave bikes in the back of it, and I'm stoked that we got them as a sponsor because it's such an easy ad read. No one wants their bike nicked, and Hiplok stop that happening the very best.
They do. Head over to hiplok.com. It's one of those things as well, let's be honest, that you're going to go, oh, I'm going to get one of those one day. I'm going to get one of those one day, and then too late. All right? So act now. Head to hiplok.com. Punch in the code, The Ride Companion 20.
Is that all capitals? The Ride Companion 20?
That's correct. It's on screen right now, flashing, and enter that at hiplok.com and you'll get yourself 20% off. And why not tell your friends as well? Because imagine if you protected your mate's bike and they were like, thank God you gave me that offer code.
That's true. That's true.
All right. There you go.
Thanks, Hiplok.
Thank
We're going to
you,
head back
Hiplok.
to the episode now.
Back into the episode.
Cheers.
What an ad break.
It was really
And
good.
what
yeah.
a cliffhanger.
It was a cliffhanger. I'm really excited
Oh, yeah.
to hear your answer, yeah. Because you've had this long,
I've had a long
easy
time
ad
to think
break.
about it.
30
Well,
seconds.
Yeah, you're talking about the changes, aren't you? What
Yes, indeed, yeah.
What's changed and happened? I'd
Yeah.
say one of the things that we've seen year on year is the reduction of people in the final. You know, it used to be 80,
Yeah.
top 80 and you're in. Then it was 60, then it dropped again, and it's now 30 for the men. The girls, I think, was dropped too much. It went to 10, and it's now come back up to 15, which I think is a great thing. But that's one of the controversial things, isn't it? Is are you stifling the up-and-comers by not giving them that airtime, that chance to get into a final? Because if you're not in the final, it's really hard to sell it to a sponsor. It's really hard to sort of show what you're doing. I didn't make the final again. And from a team's point of view, if you haven't got riders in the final and they're not on TV, again, how do you show it?
Yeah.
And the way the organisation has set up these, I think there's 20 teams that kind of get a place for the entire year. And then you've got 8 wildcard teams. But the wildcard teams are almost on a race-by-race basis, which to me is how on earth do you plan for anything?
Yeah.
I think behind the scenes, those teams probably know where they're going to be during the year. I think Gwynny gave an interview where he alluded to every race he was doing. And in theory, he shouldn't have been able to know that. If you're a, do you see what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
If you're a wildcard
not
team,
that wild, is it? That
it's not that wild.
It's in the calendar.
Yeah. So it's like if you've planned that, you should be able to plan it. But my understanding is if you're a true wildcard team, they would tell you, congratulations, you're now racing the next
I
event.
think that's just marketing spin.
I think it's marketing spin.
But
But
it's
I think
a bit crap.
in a way it caused us as teams a real stress and headache because we're like, well, we need to be this top 15 team. And therefore we have to have the riders because the riders brought the points to us.
Yeah.
So you therefore have to make sure the riders you sign have enough points. And
So you top trumps. You're pre-season top trumps.
it really was.
Yeah.
And it made it, I think it made it quite a difficult off-season for a lot of riders and teams because some riders will go, you know what, sod this, I'm breaking a contract because there's money on offer. I've got a buyout clause in here. I'm off because I've got a lot of value. And then if you tie yourself into a 3-year deal, then you're probably doing pretty well. But it's quite a cynical way to go about it, should we say? But then you've got teams that are going, well, we need the points. So you've got a rider that's being courted by a number of teams. And are they the best fit for that team or are they just bringing their points?
Yeah.
And, you know, you're dancing with the devil when you go down that road because we really, at Norco, you want everyone to be a team. You really do. You are better than the sum of your parts, you know, and that was always something that we wanted to feel like we were developing a rider. Like, I think it'd be hard for me to, I don't know whether it would be or not because I've worked with riders who've been, you know, at a very high level before I've started working with them, but I'd love to feel like I could bring someone on, understand them and help them grow.
Yeah.
And go, look, I'm trying to help you reach your potential here. And I feel like the group we've got, we can really do that. And although Danny's the veteran, I've known Danny since he was 15. I've worked with him for so long that we can kind of bolt straight back into that relationship, which has been brilliant, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I'd say that's one of the big things is like the rider numbers and the way they've organised the teams. And obviously the controversial one, a really controversial one, is the whole 3-man podium. And that, again, is a real shame because mountain biking's been a 5-man podium. You can argue every other podium's probably 3, so what you're fussing about. But I just think it gives the opportunity for us to say this is mountain biking. We're
a 5-man. Bit of individuality.
Yeah, I think so. And I do think that it does make a difference in a sport that's quite small, because we are a small sport. That 5th place, if you're 5th place, you're on the podium, you can show the world as a team you're there, as an athlete you're there, as a sponsor we're there. And that kind of gets stifled pretty quickly because to be top 3 is legit. I mean, it really focuses the mind and you need to celebrate a win, don't you? If you're top 3, bloody hell, you need to be proud of that because that's hard.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, I don't know if the 5-man podium thing is still 5 in my head.
Well, this is it.
I don't know.
And if you've had a contract or you're midway through a contract and you're getting a bonus for a top 5 and then all of a sudden, the reason we're giving you the bonus is because you're on the podium.
Yeah.
And now you're not.
Yeah.
Those are, I know those are little things, but it does shake things up and it makes things a little bit more difficult, I'd say.
When you're selecting riders for the team pre-season, what do those meetings actually look like? Like, how are you finding? That's a silly question.
No, I think it's a great question. It's one I've been trying to line up.
Yeah. Okay. How are you doing it? Because again, we could refer to other sports who have draft rooms and
yeah.
This and that,
if you think about it, as a young rider, all of this is really demotivating. If you're a young rider, you want to get on a World Cup team. How on earth do I do it? How do I get Milway to watch me and see that I've got promise and that I'm going to be one of the few that get picked? Like,
it's a fair question, to be honest. Like, we're on Roots and Rain a lot. I think it's fair to say that.
Really?
And Greg, we're looking at riders from different countries, and there's some UK guys that I got my eye on for sure as potential talent. I work with some really good youth riders, and for me that's a big part of it. I'm really passionate about continuing that youth development because that's the pathway to a World Cup team, and preferably we want first dibs sort of thing. I'd love to think that we could take a rider all the way through. Eris, funnily enough, I reached out to her, and I said, look, we'd love to discuss this with you because we think you'd be great for the team. And I kind of built a bit of a working relationship with her because I love the way she rides a bike, and I'd spoken to her a couple of years ago in Ludenville. They cancelled the junior race because of the weather, and I was like, this is madness. But I thought, it's not my problem, but I'd love to hear what the juniors think of it. And I found Eris in Ludenville, and I just said, well, are you happy they've cancelled it? As a junior girl, is it sketchy? Is it too, are you sort of, phew, I'm glad they've cancelled it. I feel safer. And she was raging they hadn't done it. And I was like, wow, this girl knows what she wants. And so we sort of just started talking through the year and sort of built it that way. Well, generally, it's always a two-way thing. Some people will reach out to you really early and you'll be like, I didn't realise that they were available or they're interested.
So they'll be like, hey, my contract's up.
Yeah, you'll often have that
sort of thing.
And I was receiving a lot of emails, and it was really tough because it's a musical chairs thing, and there's like one piece of the puzzle has to fit before something else. And I was trying to keep everyone up to date because to me, you just want to be fair. You want to say, look, at the moment, I can't do anything, but please bear in mind, we're going through this process. And it was good to get these things worked out in the end. And I think we've got to a really good point. And then with someone like Lena, I was actually introduced to Lena through Fox. I've had a good, working relationship with the company for ages. And, their head of marketing at the time said, we've got this, young girl that could really do with some guidance, and we think you'd be the right man to help her. And that started that relationship. So it's these things, it's always just discussing it and just, is the rider going to fit for the team? Are they the right sort of character? How's it going to be? And also, what's their kind of potential? Because potential isn't necessarily top of the timesheet. And that's something that you've got to bear in mind, don't you?
Yeah.
That's a cool thought.
Yeah.
If it's not the top of the timesheet, what other stuff would you be looking for?
I think you'd be looking for how they've got to where they've got. Like, you know, it could be anything from their family, how supportive or not they are, or their location. Are they in a place that can really help them ride and train and actually access the good trails? Is it something they've just recently started? Because don't forget, these, you know, they could have been doing any other sport. They could have been a gymnast, a footballer, or this or that, and they just picked up bikes and got into it. So you've got to understand that if they've grown up on a bike since age 4 and they've been doing it religiously and got to a certain level, you'd expect them to be ahead of someone who's joined later, you know, but maybe they're further up to their potential ceiling versus somebody else. So there's a lot of things that you sort of,
Reach the ceiling.
You reach the ceiling, yeah.
Do you, again, if we use like English football as an example, you have scouts.
Yeah.
Watching Sunday League or whatever they do.
Yeah.
Is that something that you'll make a trip to go look at talent?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so IXS Cup races, that was for me a really interesting thing to go to, because there were riders that I hadn't heard of. Yeah. You know, there's a new Cube Junior who's incredible and he performs so well. And I was like, I don't know who this is. And, you know, I knew of some of Lena's competitors from obviously discussing her racing with her, and then you get to see them in the flesh and like, oh, I see. Because again, if you've got someone who's very tall or very strong at 15, you'd probably bank on them being a high performer versus the same skill set, but, you know, much lighter.
Yeah.
So again, if you've got someone who's developed really early, they're probably going to be further ahead than someone who's still got that development to come. So they all play a part. I think that the problem is this, I'm away an awful lot. Like I feel as though I'd love to do everything, but I could be away at, there's a national race this weekend, for example. I'd love to be there, but
I love the thought that there's, you know, murmurs in the paddock, in the pits. It's a scout here from Norco.
Yeah.
So sick.
Yeah. But you sometimes, like at the IXS, for example, you are getting people coming up. You know what I mean? They're like, keep an eye on me, number 75. Like, I will.
Or the parents.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I'm telling you, mate.
Next big thing.
He's 40.
Yeah.
He ain't got it.
Mum, stop talking to Milway. It's embarrassing.
Alan, will anyone win €100,000 this year? If so, who do you think it could be?
Well, that's a good question.
Should the junior have won it?
Yeah. I think the junior time was phenomenal. Like Ollie Clark,
that's it.
That was the ride of the weekend, arguably, to get ahead of the Alran brothers, to get ahead of Asa, and those are the real marquee names in that, you know, junior category.
Yeah, it means something, that win, doesn't it? It means it's possible. It is possible.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think Charlie will be, like, Charlie pre-season was in dangerous form, and it hasn't quite translated into a World Cup, you know, time or position at the moment. I think he was 12th this weekend, so he's definitely on the up and up, and Charlie can do it. So that's definitely one. Joe Breeden's had an amazing season so far. He's had 2 really good results. That bike obviously is doing the business.
Yeah.
So, and then Tahuto I mentioned earlier, and then you've got Hattie in the elite women's, who again had a really strong pre-season, and there was a lot of chatter about that.
Yeah.
And I think that if she can get a track that suits her, I think would be fair to say that she could be really dangerous. So certainly possible. But then the odds are stacked against them because there's more bikes without belts than with belts. And, you know, I'd say that the Shrams and the Shimanos do not want one of those belts beating them. They're not going to be happy with that. They want us to be on chains and, you know, kind of the status quo, really.
Yeah. Good answer. Really good. I feel like we've covered most things. And I'm also mindful it's quite late.
It is quite late, isn't it? It is quite lite.
Oh, it is quite late.
It is quite
Yeah,
late.
you've got to be off. I've got more notes
Please.
here
Have you?
that I've prepared. Yeah, but maybe should we?
Yeah, dig in.
Please.
Dig in.
DSQ Controversy.
Yeah.
Oh, nice one, Ollie.
Yeah.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah. I'd say that the problem...
I didn't know what it meant. Can you explain what it means?
Yeah. The problem we've got is we've moved away from having tapes lining the track to little poles.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And there's an opportunity to go through a pole and then back again without really too much evidence of something happening. Now, I'm not suggesting that people are deliberately trying to do this, but it just opens up issues. And also, if you go off track, it's kind of more difficult to see where do I have to come back on the damn track. So we've had some problems with the racing where a rider hasn't been DQ'd that probably should have been, or has, and because of that, they get points. And like we've talked about with the whole team situation and riders and everything, points are a valuable commodity. You work so hard to get these points, and then someone isn't DQ'd or whatever and gets them, or your rider's DQ'd and you're like, hang on a second, what's happened here? And you lose them. You just want some parity, really. You know, you just want something that...
How is it?
Well, it's a commissaire. So fun enough, we sort of learned all about this because it all started in Poland where Amory went around a pole that he should have gone between. Yeah. And there was it was unequivocal, you know, should have been DQ'd, no problem, no argument. But apparently someone had to protest, and you could only raise that protest within 15 minutes of the race finishing. And once the result sheet has been published, too bad. Now, to me, that's crackers because it was in qualifying. You had the next day before the race had started. But you know, that it is what it is.
So this would have been a qualifying DQ?
Yeah. So he wouldn't have made the final.
Man, it's so interesting. It's like literally Formula One. They're at each other trying to get them, aren't they? They're on the radios. They're digging in. Where did he go? What did he do?
It's like I don't think the attitude is generally that. I think the fact is that it's, if points are that valuable and you are fighting for a leader's jersey and someone should be in the final and then comes in and takes some points in a leader's jersey, you're like,
that's business.
Yeah. And that's, you know, it's certainly I've got no issue with any individual, you know, who should or shouldn't have been DQ. There's no problem. But I think one of the things that we've learned is now, and I don't know whether this has always been the case, but in Ludenville, they had, I think, 2 commissaires watching different screens the entire time. So the idea being that they are trying to be live with it. And the UCI have been actually really good. So when we've kind of asked questions, what is happening here? They've sort of been able to feed back to us.
But they're watching the broadcast.
Yeah, they're
watching which there are significant bits of track missing.
Yeah. Okay. And that's something that I don't think you want to think anyone's ever going to cheat. But if you do blow off the track and you come back on, you might not even know where you've come off. I was watching something today actually, and there was a golfer who caught a little bit of sand on his backswing, and that's a penalty. You're not allowed to touch the sand in the bunker. And the camera didn't pick it up. No one picked it up. The course ref didn't pick it up, but he felt it. So he self-regulated himself and said, look, I think I touched the sand here. They docked him 2 shots, and that cost him $3 million because it moved his position. So
he's an honest guy.
He's an honest guy.
Honestly.
Marry him.
But they're not all like that.
Marry that guy. Someone marry him. Imagine how gutted you'd be if you're in one of those huts looking at your little screen and you're like, I think he just went outside the pole. Oh, who was it? Amory. You know what I mean? It's just so...
It's a tough one. And I don't think there's any... Like, no one's suggesting there's Amory's worse or better than anyone else doing it. But I think Finn had a big crash in Ludenville and sort of tumbled out of the poles, got himself back on and finished. And in theory, I think he probably should have been as well. And it's one of those where you just want consistency. And it was quite interesting to see Henry Kiefer, you know, this weekend. Amazing to see him up there and get that podium result. Well deserved. And the week before, he had a guy with an umbrella smashing his chain device trying to figure it out. And so all of this stuff, it kind of adds to the drama. And I think from a neutral's point of view, it kind of stirs up the forums and the chatter. But you don't want the negativity that goes along with it. I think there's so much. I hate reading comments on like a UCR or Warner Brothers Instagram post or bring back Red Bull or I didn't watch it. I'm like, come on.
Racing's racing. It's still amazing. It's still amazing that we get to.
You still want to be excited by it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice positive way to end.
That probably is. I think that's not. Yeah, exactly that. We're here for the good.
We're here for the good.
I could really sit here and talk to you for ages about it. It's so exciting talking to someone who's just there every round, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, let's do it again.
Please.
Let's do it again.
Anytime, mate. You're always welcome.
Thank you very much for... Hey, I tell you what, where can people follow for the team?
Norco Bicycles, Norco Race Division. Thomas Sandow does some incredible videos on YouTube. He does these amazing long forms, which is on Norco's YouTube.
Around the team at the weekends?
Yeah.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, he's done some brilliant edits. He's a great filmmaker. So that would be where I would go. If you watch them, you'll get a good flavour of what we're up to.
We'll put a link to those in the show description. How
there
about
you
that?
go. Perfect. Alan Milway, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Peace and love.
Like and bloody subscribe, would you? Mate, what an episode.
Brilliant. I thought you were really great, Davey.
Mate, and I thought you were even better.
Thanks, dude.
Better than normal.
Oh, cheers.
Hey, how about we tell our lovely podcast community to hit subscribe here.
Yeah.
Click on the video on Ollie's face.
That's right.
Click on the video on my face.
Yeah.
And follow us at The Ride Companion on Instagram.
They can like and comment as well.
Please do.
I'm going to try and get this energy and I'm going to bring it into next week.
Let's fast forward to next week's episode.
Done.